everyone, and welcome back to Python Lessons on Codecademy. Today we will be continuing on with the lists and functions section on Codecademy, and we will be going on from lesson 13. So let's see what we need to do. Modifying each element in a list in a function. So we've already kind of discussed this, and we know that we can modify any element in a list using a function. So let's practice a bit more. So it wants us to define a function called double list that takes an argument x, which will be a list, and multiplies each element by 2 and returns that list. And we can use this as a scaffold. Therefore, we can just move this. Oops, there we go. And that double list. And because this is x, we need to replace n with x, and then we need to do return x. So I will explain this. So we have a list n, which we put as a parameter in the function double list, and in that function we call it x. And then we say for every element in the length of this list, in this list, make each element the same, each index the same as the value of that element in the index times 2. So I here at first is 0, and then the 0th index of x is 3, and so the 0th index equals 3 times 2, and then we get 6, so 6 is printed. Then I becomes 1, the first index is 5, so 5 times 2 is 10, and we have 10. The same goes for 14. We have 7 times 2, 14. So let's move on. Passing a range into a function. So I will start off by explaining how range works. What range does is it just creates a list of the things that you specify. So I will open Python here to be able to explain it more clearly. So range and one with one argument in the parentheses. Just okay, let's start again. So if we do this, a list equals range and let's say 10. And then if we print this a list, we're going to get the numbers from 0 to 9. So let's save it, something with py. Ooh, okay. Oh, I meant to do equals, sorry, not dash. So we get 0 through 9. So what it does is, it prints every number before the number that you specify. So in this case 10, and including 0, because we're saying print everything from 0 to before this number, because you don't stop right at a stop sign, but you stop before a stop sign. So just remember it something like that. Then we have start and stop. So that means start somewhere and stop before somewhere else. So we can do 3, 10. What this is going to do is print the numbers from 3 to 10. So let's run and see what happens. So as you can see, it starts exactly at the number that you specify first and stops before the number that you specify second, the second parameter. So it prints the numbers 3 through 9. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then we also have something like this, comma 3. Let's do it. So these two stay the same. So it's going to print 3 through 20. But then we say don't print every number, but print every third number. So it's going to count up by 3. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. If we do 2 here, it's going to print to 19. Yes. And if we do 2 here, it's going to print to 18 because it's going to stop before 20, but it can't stop at 19 because that's not a step. It doesn't count 19 as a step. So it's going to stop 2 steps before 20. Hopefully that's clear enough. If it's not, please tell me in the comments and I will do my best to explain. So let's move on with the task. So on line 6, replace the blank space with a range that returns a list containing 0, 1 and 2. Oh, I've already done this, sorry about that. So it starts at 0, therefore we don't need to specify a start because the start by default is 0. The step, it's going up by 1, so we don't need to specify the step either. Now the stop isn't going to be 2, it's going to be 3 because it stops right before what you wanted to stop. So therefore this is going to be a list 0, 1 and 2. And then we have this function which multiplies each element by 2, so it returns 0, 2 and 4, meaning that we did the correct thing. So let's move on. Iterating over a list in a function. So there are 2 ways in which you can iterate through a list in a function or even outside of a function. I prefer using this way because it's quicker, but in some situation I might use this way, this method. Because we have practiced this method before, I will do this method now. So let's see. Create a function that returns the sum of a list of numbers. On line 3, oops, I need to reset code, sorry. Define a function called total that accepts one argument called numbers. It will be a list. Inside the function, create a variable called result, which is set to 0. Using one of the 2 methods above, iterate through the numbers list. So I'm going to do this method. So for number in numbers, using and then for each number added to the result. So result plus equals number. Finally, return the result. Return result. So what this is going to do is this is going to be passed. Oops, I haven't specified that, have I? So total n, and we can print. So now that we have this, so it's we're going to skip this for now. So this is called print total n. So total, the function total is now called with this list, and 3, 5, and 7. So we set a variable to be 0 or an integer. Then for every number, so for every value in numbers, which is our list or n, or this list 3, 5, and 7, make the result what it was before plus what you have now. So it's going to be result, the first value of number is going to be 3. So result equals 0 plus 3. So that's going to be 3. Then goes again. Number is 5 this time. So result equals 3 plus 5. That's 8. Then plus 7. And we get 15. What this should print therefore is 15. As we can see, it prints 15. So let's move on. Using strings in lists and functions. It's exactly the same as using an integer. You can modify it any way that you want. So let's see what we need to do. Define a function called joinStrings, which accepts arguments called words. It will be a list. So define a function called joinStrings with words, which is a list. Inside the function, create a variable called result, which is said to be a blank string or an empty string. iterate through the words list and append each word to result. So I will do the other method now. So for, oops, I meant to do that. For word um, in range, and then we can do length of words. Um, result plus equals, because we're concatenating. You can't do dot append to a string, even though it works similarly to a list. It just doesn't work with a string. Plus equals the index of words. So we need to do words, and the index is going to be word. And now we need to just return the result. So return result. So let's see what happens. As we can see, Michael Lieberman is printed. How this works is the same as the previous thing. It's just with a string. So we have the first value for word is going to be 0. So result is the 0th index of words, which is Michael. So result is Michael. Then we go again, and word becomes 1. So it's going to be the first index, which is Lieberman. So we're going to add Lieberman to Michael, stick it on there, pretty much, and we get Michael Lieberman. And that result is returned and printed, as we can see there. So let's move on to the last part of this. Using two lists as two arguments in the function. You can use lists. You can use more than one argument in a function, as we've seen previously. You can even use lists in a list, and you can have more than one list in a list, and then you use those as two arguments. If hopefully you understand what I'm saying, but that's not very relevant for this example. So let's see. On line 4, so here, define a function called join lists that has two arguments, x and y. So define join lists, arguments x and y. They will both be lists. Okay. I don't know why I'm putting a parentheses there, but for some reason I am. Sorry about that. Inside the function, return the result of concatenating x and y together. So how we can do this is pretty much just return m plus n. How I know this is because you can just do that plus if you have read that. So if we save and submit, let's see what happens. Your code, check the console window for errors. Line 11, print mn. Join list. Oh, that's not how you spell lists, is it? That's why. So returned 1, 2, 3, 4. What? 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of that. Well, that's because that's what you told me to do. Join lists 1, 2, 3, 4. Returned instead of. What if we don't actually print that? I have no idea right now. Okay. Let's see the hint. You can just use plus to concatenate two lists. You don't want to use append because this just adds the entire second list as a single object at the end of the first. So we are using plus. Oh, I need to do x plus y, not m plus n. Yes, there we go. So now that would have printed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on what it inputted. So last thing for today, using a list of lists in a function. This is what I was talking about previously, kind of. So you can put two lists in a list, and each list is going to have its own index as well as having its own values. So To get 1 here, you would have to do index 0 and then index 1 of index 0, which would look something like index 0 and then index 1, I believe. So yeah, that would get 2 actually, not 1. Okay, so let's see what we need to do. So we first create a list containing 2 items, each of which is a list of numbers. Okay, and we end up printing that. Create a function called flatten that takes a single list and concatenates all the sublists that are part of it into a single list. So I actually need to reset code there. So on line 3, define a function called flatten, takes one argument called lists, because a list of lists actually, but it just wants it to be called lists. Make a new empty list called results equals empty list. Iterate through lists, call the looping variable numbers. For numbers in lists, lists, we iterate through numbers for each number dot appended to results. And then for I in numbers, well actually for number in numbers, results dot append number. So and now we need to return this, and we'll explain it once I've done it. Return results. Let's see if this works. Yes, it does work. So let's actually explain this now clearly, or as clearly as I can. So for numbers in lists, says make numbers the first value of lists, which is this list, so the list 1 to 3. Then we go through the 0th index, so the first list in n, by saying for number in numbers. So this gives me the first value in the first list, which is 1, and it appends that number to results. Then it moves on in this for loop, so it appends 2 and 3. Once it's done appending those two, it exits this for loop and goes back to this for loop, and then numbers becomes this this list, which is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and then it enters this for loop and makes number to go through this list. So at first it's 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, then 8, and appends all of those in order in results, and then it just flattens it into one list. If you didn't understand any of this or a part of this, then please comment in the comments down below. Otherwise, like the video, subscribe, share, dislike it, tell me why you didn't like it so that I can improve for next time. And until next time, goodbye.